Hello, this is John Griffiths with what is the fifth in a series of films that I'm making about using technical resources as a support to preaching. Today I want to focus on the Voxpop or interview as something that you can use within a sermon. Let me show you the props that I'd use for it. This is a camcorder because there are now very compact camcorders available on the market from about £60 going through to about £150. This one is a high definition one, so it would tend to cost around the £120, £130 mark. And once you've, you can see very limited, very simple controls. And once you've chosen to, you've taken your film, then what you can do is to flip it out and stick it into the computer, and the software for both PC and Mac, it allows you to do very simple edits and to be able to send it to YouTube or be able to mail it to someone else. And so this is really revolutionising the kinds of films that we can make. But I always use it, if I can, with a tripod. Why? Because people don't realise how much their hands shake and how distracting that can be. So that's what it looks like. There you are, and we're ready to go into action to do a Voxpop or interview in a matter of seconds. There's a number of things you should think about when setting up an interview like this. The first thing is about making sure you do have a tripod. These things cost between £5 and £10 from any photography shop. The second thing is background. Is there a distracting background behind me? Think about what you're wearing. You may have a dreadful old jumper on or something, so pay some attention to think about that. Think about the background noise. I'm fortunate here that it's quiet. The household is still at the moment. And don't simply switch on and then think about what you're going to ask. Think about the question, and if you're interviewing someone, prepare them before you even switch the camera on with the question that you're going to ask them. And you might choose to ask that question again, but try and keep it as simple and as natural as possible. Now, as a sort of live demonstration of this, I was having a coffee just a couple of days ago with Vanessa Parr, who is a curate in the neighbouring parish, and so when we met in the Cafe Nero up in town, I asked her a question, and let's have a look and see how that went.
I think the person who's most influenced me about prayer is probably my best friend, Louise, who I met at university, and she suffers from a debilitating disability. That's not her defining thing. I think that the thing that I love about her is the way that prayer has sort of weaved through her life and changed with her life. And she can be joyful and exuberant in prayer. She can shout and rage at God in prayer. She's very honest in prayer. I think that's one of the things I love about her honesty. And I think I also love the intimacy of the way that she prays, as though she is with someone who knows her so completely and so utterly and who loves her. She never holds back. I think I'm inclined to sort of censor what I say or to try and package it so it's more acceptable, and she never does that, and I really love that. I think I also love her faithfulness and her tenacity, and the fact that even when things are difficult, she never stops praying, even if the answers don't come, and even when it's desperate and she's angry and she feels abandoned. That's not the end of the conversation just carries on. So I think it's her honesty, her freshness, her tenacity which inspires me.
Thank you very much.
What do you think? There's no question that Vanessa is a very good interviewee. She's very natural in how she talks to the camera, and she does, unlike me, talk to the camera and remember to look at it. But those weren't the most propitious circumstances to do an interview. You'll see that the framing was a bit askew because it was difficult for me to get the tripod at the right angle, and so we haven't got all of her head in. You'll have seen from the first shot, which I've just done of myself, that part of my head was missing because I was trying to include the table. So if you haven't got a human operator to get all that sorted out, then you're going to have to save time, just sort out your shots, and it may not be perfect. The other compromise in that environment, which I actually deliberately chose to give you encouragement, is the fact that it was a very noisy environment. The cafe had background music playing all the time, and there was a fearful din coming from the refrigerator unit cooling the milkshakes in the corner. So before we did the interview, I really wasn't that confident that it would come out, but I thought that if the equipment would allow Vanessa's voice to come out above all the hullabaloo behind, then it was an example to show us that there's really no reason why we shouldn't be using all sorts of places in the real world, so to speak, to interview people, and we shouldn't be afraid to be able to set up interviews at the drop of a hat all over the place. I think it's also worth reminding ourselves that that interview took 2 minutes. I mean, it took almost no time at all. And I think it works very well as a format, because the attention is less on filmmaking and on the hand shaking and all the rest of it, and on the question being asked and on Vanessa's answer. But the reason why I'm very enthusiastic about these small camcorders is that compared with the hoo-ha of needing to remember to charge a camcorder or put tape in it or discs and all the rest of it, these new camcorders are very self-contained. Many have rechargeable batteries, and so they recharge when you plug them into your computer, and they are able to film for an hour, and the one I'm working with films for 2 hours. So you've got all the space you need to be able to just get on and make short films. I'd like to follow with another example, which I took at the clergy conference earlier this summer, when Bishop Graham Cray was one of the main speakers. And I found myself in the lunch queue next to him, and because I always tend to carry a camcorder with me, just in case, holding the camcorder, because I didn't have the benefit of a tripod in this context, I asked him a question. Here's a little extract from that, so you can see how that works.
Depth and breadth of discipleship. Are people engaging their faith with the whole of their lives, so that all of their lives become opportunities for the kingdom? Capacity to discern. If mission is Spirit-led, then the capacity to identify what the Spirit is doing, and as the saying goes, join in. But I don't want that to be understood individualistically. I do believe discernment is a corporate exercise primarily. The third one is the ability to be a community of hope, to be a group of people who imperfectly live the future that Jesus has secured in advance. So with all its imperfections, other people see it and say, I don't know if I believe what they do, but if that is half a hint of a possible future, I want to know more.
So once you've done basic editing, I mean just cropping off the beginning and end of the recording, then you can take your film or films of the interviews you've done, and you can export them out of the film editor that comes with the camera. And once you have it in a format like a QuickTime or a Real Audio or a Windows video format, then it's suitable to be played back through a computer during the sermon. And I would just use a standard media player to do that. It's worth thinking about making sure that you just keep the things on the computer. I know you could upload these things to YouTube, and the software allows you to do that, but then you have the uncertainties of playing from the internet live during a sermon, and things can go wrong. So I always, if I can, play films back from the computer where I am, to just minimise the risk of something going wrong. Okay, so say you haven't got £130 to spend on a flashy little camcorder like that. Well, there's other things you could consider. I've got an iPhone. I know it's not the cheapest of phones, but most smartphones these days come with not only a camera on board, which may be able to do movies or stills, but also have an audio voice recorder. So for the same interview with Vanessa, I switched on the phone and made an audio voice recording. And so I was able to record that just to see how this would come out in the same way. I also took a photo of her with this afterwards, because once you've got the audio recording, it's nice to give people a focus to look at the person who's being interviewed, and so I did that also. if you then want to put the two things together, the photo and the audio, then you'll may need to use an audio editor to do a little bit of simple editing or cropping, though often the phones will have that kind of software anyway, and then you would need to get it off the phone, either by plugging your phone into your computer and dragging and dropping the file across, or by attaching it, if your phone does email, attaching it to an email and mailing it to yourself, and then you've got the audio. Once you've done that, you can load that into PowerPoint. Within the Insert menu in PowerPoint, there's a place which allows you to insert movies or sounds or insert pictures. So using that command, you can drop it in, you've got the picture there, and then you've got a little button that you can press and it'll play the audio recording back when you're ready for it to do so. So, I've shown you in this film how to use a camcorder, one of the little ones, and I've shown how even with a phone you can use Voxpops and interviews. So what are you waiting for? There's no reason why you shouldn't experiment with using this as a technique. Thanks for listening.
The thing that I love about her is the way that prayer has sort of weaved through her life and changed with her life, and she can be joyful and exuberant in prayer. She can shout and rage at God in prayer. She's very honest in prayer. I think that's one of the things I love about her honesty, and I think I also love the intimacy of the way that she prays, as though she is with someone who knows her so completely and so utterly and who loves her. She never holds back. I think I'm inclined to sort of censor what I say or to try and package it so it's more acceptable, and she never does that, and I really love that. I think I also love her faithfulness and her tenacity, and the fact that even when things are difficult, she never stops praying, even if the answers don't come, and even when it's desperate and she's angry and she feels abandoned. That's not the end of the conversation just carries on. So I think it's her honesty, her freshness, her tenacity which inspires me.
Thank you very much.